Hey there, welcome to the Impatient Entrepreneur Podcast, a show where we hear from entrepreneurs and business owners who are chomping at the bit to make their mark on the world. I'm your host, Lauren Quidar-Cockrell. Now, let's hurry up and get to the good stuff. Back friends, today we have Bryan Clayton with us. He is the CEO of GreenPal, and I cannot wait for him to share his story with us. Bryan, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Lauren. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So tell us about your business. Tell us about your business, baby. What's going on?
Yeah, my baby is a company called GreenPal, and GreenPal is a mobile app that works kind of like Uber or DoorDash or Instacart, but for gardening services, lawn care services. So if you need to get somebody out at the yard to cut the grass, you just download GreenPal, you pop your address in, and lawn mowing services nearby you compete over your business, and you'll get quotes, and you can hire them right through the app and pay them right through the app. And if everything goes well, just set it and forget it. It all just happens like magic in the background. And GreenPal is a 10-year overnight success. My co-founders and I have been in it for over a decade. And now we're the nation's largest network of lawn care services that you can find and schedule and pay through your smartphone. And around 300,000 people using it every week to get lawn mowing.
I love this concept. So smart. It's one of those, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I was fairly certain somebody was going to build. And I thought, well, why can't it be me? My first business was actually a lawn mowing business. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra money. And I stuck with that business. And over a 15-year period of time, built it into a real company, one of the larger landscaping businesses in the state of Tennessee where I live, and ended up selling it to a big national company. So after I sold the company, I got bored. I thought, what am I going to do with my life now? I think somebody's going to build an app that works like this Uber thing, but for lawn care. And so it was kind of naivete as an asset. I didn't know how hard it was going to be, but recruited two co-founders and we started working on the idea.
Well, I feel like in business and parenting, that naivete is helpful, because if we knew everything that was waiting for us, there probably wouldn't be many businesses or parents out there.
That's right. It is an asset. And it's like no rational person would ever start their own business because it's just the risks outweigh the rewards. And you got to really be passionate about what the idea is. You got to really want to see this thing exist in the world. And that's how it was for us. I couldn't sleep at night. I wanted to see this thing exist. And, the first few years were challenging, mainly because we were inventing something new from scratch that did not exist. Nobody told me about that. Nobody told me that was actually the hardest part. I thought the hardest part was going to be coding and writing software and designing software. And no, actually the hard part was inventing something brand new that nobody knew to use. Nobody knew how to use. That was challenging in a way that I never knew that it would be.
And how did you crack that nut?
Well, at the time, this was 10 years ago. So 2013, there was a book that came out called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And he, in that book, talks about this roadmap for building a startup. And he comes up with this methodology called the minimal viable product, which means you get something out there in the marketplace, just enough key word viable, minimal viable product, which means like it actually works. It has a minimal feature set. And then you start getting feedback around what people like, what they don't like, what's your assumptions, which were right, which were correct. And then you just keep making small changes on top of that until you get to a place where people like what you have, and then you can start to grow. And you do that without a loss of enthusiasm from failure to failure. You just keep plowing through it. And that's how the first 3 or 4 years was for us. It was very much like pushing a rope up a mountain. It was a lot of trial and error, but after about 3 years, we finally got a right recipe of things that people wanted and needed, and something that would work reliably.
Okay. Well, how did you maintain your enthusiasm in the face of pushing that rope up the mountain?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't like some kind of like David Goggins style determination or anything like that. It wasn't anything fancy. It was something really simple. So after I sold my first company, I tried to retire. I tried to like live this life of the passive income capitalist type of thing. And that was really discontent. That was like boring to me. I didn't want to do that. So that wasn't an option. And so I made a decision that from that day forward, no matter what, I was just going to work on my best idea. And I was going to work as hard as I could on my best idea. And fortunately, I'm not terribly creative. I've had one good idea in 10 years. And this is it. You should be able to push a button and you should be able to easily hire a lawn mowing service without all the mess of calling around, leaving voicemails and stuff like that. That was the vision then. And that's what the company does now to this day. And so I thought, in days where it wasn't working and like nothing was going right, I thought, well, this is my best idea. And I still have two co-founders that also believe in it, that believe in the vision. And we're just going to keep working on this one idea. And then the other thing that we did was we celebrated really small wins like they were big wins. So our first goal was just 100 customers. We wanted 100 people to use the app in a 7-day period in 1 week. And I thought, maybe a month we can hustle up 100 people to use it. Well, that took 2 years. It took 2 years because it's not just 100 people using a service. It's 100 consumers signing up and then getting matched with a lawn care service that they like, that actually shows up, that does a good job, and then figuring out like the 4-dimensional chess that goes into making that happen. And so that took a long time to figure out, a lot longer than I thought it would. But when we got to 100 customers, we celebrated it like it was 1 million, because I knew that if we got to 100, we could get to 200 and 500 and 1,000 and 2,000, 10,000 and so on. So that's how it unfolded for us. We just kept making small goals and knocking them down and focusing all of our firepower on those little goals, one step at a time.
And so you have two co-founders. Where did they come from?
These were just friends of mine that I'd known for a long time, that I knew they didn't know how to code. They didn't know how to build software. So ideally you get what Paul Graham calls a hacker and a hustler. You get somebody who is sales driven, who is just a driven, motivated individual who wants to drive a business forward. And then you get a hacker, somebody who knows the technical side, can execute on the technical side. And you get these two people to come together. It's like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and 1 + 1 is 3 or 5. We had 3 hustlers. We had three guys with a chip on their shoulder who wanted to show the world or their family or their friends that they could build something big that could touch the mass market. That's all we had. And I recognized that in these two guys that I'd known for a long time. And I told them this idea that I had, and they said, dude, I'll quit my job tomorrow and I will work on that with you. And I could tell they were hungry. I could tell that they wanted more out of life than they were getting in their full-time job. Both of them had very successful careers, but there was something missing from that for them. And so that was enough for us. We were 3 hustlers, and we taught ourselves the hacker side. We learned how to build software. We learned how to design software. We taught ourselves these things just through YouTube University and all the classes. That's one reason why it took several years. No, we also had to work on ourselves to get the skills we needed to play in this game.
Interesting. And y'all are all together today?
Still today, yeah. Now over a decade in, we're still the 3 founders, and we haven't raised any outside capital. So it's kind of nice. The 3 of us very cleanly own the business, and now we have a team of around 45 people that we built out around us to run this platform.
Fascinating. I love all of this. I haven't even asked you an official question yet. So let me ask my first official question. Bryan, are you an impatient entrepreneur?
Well, it's kind of funny. Yes, I'm always discontent with the progress of the business, and I think that can be a good thing and a bad thing. So, because if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And so you have to be driving it forward as the founder, as the CEO. So you need to have that natural state of discontent, of impatience, of trying to figure out ways to grow. Because if you're not growing, you're going backwards. And so I guess yes. But on the other hand, these things work kind of like a crock pot. You have to let them bake, and there are no overnight successes. A lot of these things do take 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I think what kills a lot of startups is impatience. And what I mean by that is a founder will have an idea and they'll work on it for 6 months or a year. And if they don't catch lightning in a bottle, they're on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, if they had just stuck with that one idea for 5 years, they'd have something. So it's a balance between being discontent with the status quo and driving the business forward and being impatient and focusing on the daily habits and the daily routines and the daily inputs into the business and not getting caught up in fake work. Because a lot of times we as founders, we can get caught up in fake work where we're almost like fooling ourselves that we're being productive and we're just doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter.
Right.
At early days, there's really only two things that matter. There is building stuff and getting people to use that. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and if you're not doing one of those two things, most likely you're doing fake work. And that goes into like attending conferences, networking, working on your culture, social media strategy, all of these things that like matter at some point, but not in the first, like, $500,000 in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so being impatient about that is important, but sitting there is laying back and saying, oh, well, we have 10 customers or, let's just be patient. Well, eventually we'll get 100. You need to, like, what are you doing every day to get the 100? So you got to have both.
Absolutely. So how do you like to fuel yourself in your entrepreneurial journey? Do you read books? Do you go to conferences to do that fake work? Are you a podcast guy? Like, what do you like to do?
Yeah, so for me, I like to draw inspiration from people who have done what it is I'm trying to do. And so Mark Cuban has a quote that says, never take advice from somebody who has not done what it is you're trying to do. So we live in this world of all of these gurus and coaches and things like that. And they have their place, but it's important when you're getting advice from one of these folks, have they done what it is you're trying to do? And so I'm always looking at examples like Uber, Travis Kalanick, the founder of that company, and how they willed that company into existence. That was inspirational to me and still is. But other companies like Wag and Rover that do what we do, but for dog walking services, or the founders of Instacart, or the founders of DoorDash. Learning from their stories. The founders of Tinder, they built a local marketplace, and believe it or not, the struggles that Tinder faced in the early days of building a dating app apply to challenges we have in building a lawn mowing app, because we're connecting buyers and sellers and two sides of a party at a great local level. And so a lot of things they did in the early days, we took inspiration from to build GreenPal. And so I'm always looking for those stories. I'm looking for those examples. I'm looking for those tactics, and I get them from books. I get them from podcasts, YouTube University. What a time to be alive, where you can just go to YouTube and learn pretty much anything for free. The thing that always blows my mind about YouTube is I'll be watching this incredible resource, like a conference talk, a fireside chat, or just an interview. And I'm like, man, this is incredible. And I look down the bottom left-hand corner and it's got 12 views.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you get to that point where you're like, this is a gold mine of information and it has like 19 views, that's when you know you're in the right corner.
Yeah. I'm with my people, all 13 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next for you? I mean, is CEO life keeping you busy? Are things at a place now where you're on cruise control? Or are you planning expansion or exit, or what's up next?
So when I started the company, like I mentioned earlier, I made a decision that no matter what, I'm going to work as hard as I can on my best idea. And then the second commitment I made to myself was I was going to keep doing this, running this business, as long as I was having fun doing it. I'm having a lot of fun running this business. It's challenging. It's rewarding. There's all kinds of new, interesting things. We're touching the mass market. We're at 300,000 people. We want to get to 1 million. I think that would be a fun milestone. And so that's what I'm focused on now. Honestly, I don't have to work myself to the bone running it like I did in the first 5 years. The first 5 years, it's very much 6 and 7 days a week, 12 and 14-hour days. Now I can work a lot less higher leverage activities. and so I can run the business a lot more comfortably than I could in the early years. So that makes it more fun and more enjoyable.
Sure.
I can do the things I want to do.
A little more sustainable.
Yeah. Whereas in the early days, I was very much an individual contributor, along with doing the stuff running the business, and then also working on myself. I was having to learn how to code, how to design software, learn stuff like SEO and copywriting and things like that. So that took a while, took a lot of work. And so these days it's a lot less stressful. It's a lot more fun, and I'm glad we've gotten the team to where we are today.
Okay. So 100 million users. I was committing to you there. 1 million users is next.
1 million users is next. That's right. And it may happen in 3 years. It may happen in 5, but it's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I may have to be a future customer of yours. I'm looking at my lawn right now.
Fantastic.
Is there anything you're particularly impatient about right now?
Yeah. You always want it to grow faster. You always want it to grow bigger. You always want it to move faster. It's almost never fast enough. And so for us, the big bottleneck for us is how do we get more homeowners, more consumers to know about the product when they need it? Where this industry is kind of like where food delivery was in 2009. So in 2009, if you wanted Chinese food or General Tso chicken delivered, you would call the Chinese restaurant. Maybe if you were like a tech forward individual, you might go online, you might use Grubhub. But 9 times out of 10, you would just call the Chinese restaurant and give them your credit card number over the phone, and then like their delivery courier would bring it to you. Same thing with pizza. You would call Pizza Hut or Domino's. And so that's where home services is today. You need a gardener, if you need somebody to fix your air conditioner or something, you're going to maybe do a search on Google, but you're still going to dial for dollars. And that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to condition the mass audience to understand, no, you can just download an app and do that. You don't have to go do your own grocery shopping anymore. And so that's what I'm impatient about, is the acceleration of that. And the way we do that is just focusing on building a kick-ass product that people like to use, that they refer to their friends and family, and then also showing up where they're looking when they need a lawn mowing service. So a lot of that is a lot of Google, a lot of work on search engine optimization. Of if I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, lawn mowing service, Lincoln, Nebraska, we pop up as an option. PR, things like that. Just getting the word out about the platform so people know to use it when they need it.
Yeah. I'm sure there's, well, like you said, you have to create almost create the demand for it, because they don't know what they don't know.
The awareness. The awareness is the challenging thing, especially if we didn't raise any capital, which is good and bad. If you raising capital is kind of like playing poker. If you bring that money in and you make the right bets, it can work out. If you don't, then it's a zero. And there's a lot of startups that Uber for X ideas, Uber for home cleaning, Uber for laundry service, that raised a bunch of money that went out of business very quickly.
Sure.
So we didn't want to repeat those mistakes. But if you're plugging away slow and low, bootstrapping the business, it's hard to buy that awareness. You have to earn it one customer at a time. So that's kind of the grind that we're in.
Yeah. Fascinating. Okay. So changing gears a little bit. What's something that's happened in your career, whether it was the first business or this one, where something happened and you felt like the rug really got pulled out from underneath you and you weren't quite sure if you were going to survive it, but ultimately looking back now, you realize it was one of the best things that could ever happen?
Yeah, it's like I think Elon Musk said, entrepreneurship is like chewing glass, and eventually you come to like the taste of your own blood.
The vivid imagery.
how starting this business was. And so there wasn't, there was several punches in the stomach. One that really caught me by surprise is when we first getting started, how little anybody cared. About what we were trying to build this thing. We were trying to bring it to life. And you quickly realize you're on your own. Nobody's going to help you. The only person that cares is the customer that you're solving the problem for.
Sure.
And, I was expecting, I don't know why I expected this, but I was expecting like some help from like the tech community and my friends and my family. And we didn't get any of that. And I remember very clearly, it wasn't like that we got the rug pulled out from under us, but it did feel like a punch in the stomach. My best friend at the time, he knew I spent 6 months building this app, and he had just bought a home. And I said, "Oh, you got a yard now? Well, guess what? You can try out GreenPal." He's like, "Yeah, I'll try it out." I said, "Man, I appreciate it, and let me know how it works, and let me know how your feedback." And about 2 weeks goes by, and I was like, "Hey, how did it go? How did it go when you signed up for quotes?" He goes, "Man, I started to download it, but there was a guy mowing the yard next door, and he actually came over and mowed mine." I was like, "Oh, okay, well that's cool. We can get him on there too."
Yeah.
So he can use it, and you can use it, and like really help me figure out how to build this thing. He goes, "Man, I appreciate you following up, but I got it taken care of, man. So thanks."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Man, wow."
I'm out here in the ocean with no floaties.
Yeah. And so you realize real quick that, man, like nobody's going to help you with this. Nobody's going to care. You have to care. You have to really want to see this thing exist, and you have to will it into existence. And the only people that are going to care is the customers that you're solving a problem for. Right. And that's a good thing, because that's what forces you to build something valuable. There is no charities in building a new product. So it's not happening to you; it's happening for you. And so that was like a punch in the stomach that I got in the early days. That actually turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened, because it course corrected me really quick. Yeah. It was like, no, the product sucks. He fixed the things that suck about the product. There's probably some reasons why he didn't use it. Don't blame him. And make the product as good as it can be. And so that's what we did.
Okay. You mentioned, like the guy mowing the lawn. How has lawn care company adoption of GreenPal gone?
In the early days, it was a challenge because they didn't know about it, didn't know to use it. They've also, that community has been really burned by a lot of lead generation services. So services that aggregate customer demand, and then they'll sell you a lead for like $20. And that sometimes works out, but it doesn't really work out for a $30 lawn mowing. And so a lot of these people that make their living in lawn maintenance were burned by these big companies. So they just assumed we were one of them. So we had to overcome that. That was really hard. But then once we could prove that, hey, this is one place where you can run your whole lawn mowing business, you get all the work you want, you get paid within 24 hours. It's one place to manage everything. It really makes your life better. That's who we built it for. We built it for these small business owners in mind to help improve their livelihood. Then that got easy. Now we have waiting lists in pretty much every city of lawn services who want to use it to grow their business.
Okay, cool. I was curious about that. I had to interrupt myself to ask you that. Okay, now back to our vulnerability corner. Growing up, was there something about you that people made you feel like a personality trait of yours was deficient or less than, like, "Oh, Bryan, you're so emotional," or you're so competitive, or anything? But now as this successful entrepreneur and leader, you realize that it's actually your superpower?
It's funny. That's who we look for when we're hiring for our team, is people who have a chip on their shoulder, who weren't the cool guy or cool gal in high school. They may not have, they weren't homecoming queen. They weren't valedictorian. They weren't the star of the football team. They have something to prove. And that's really how I experienced high school and college was I was never like the cool, popular guy. And I saw small business ownership as my lane to prove that I could matter, that I could build something bigger than myself, that I could build something successful. And man, I mean, what an amazing thing small business is. It's like, if you are dedicated enough and want to work hard enough, you can make something of yourself bigger than yourself. And that's how it was for me. And I had that chip on my shoulder. My two co-founders do that. And that's why I recruited them to start this business. And so a lot of times it's like you see this looking back in high school, the football quarterback, the star of the football team, the captain of the cheerleader team, the homecoming king or queen. A lot of times that's where they peak.
Yep. Yep.
A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times that's where they peak. And so I wasn't any of those things, and so we look for people like that have that chip on their shoulders. So that's how my childhood was in high school and in college. Really, I didn't get to do the typical college thing where you party and have fun, and I was mowing yards all day, going to school at night, with grass all over me. My classmates hated me because I smelled like gasoline and grass. And so like I always felt like I'm going to make this worth it, and business was my outlet to do that.
Okay. I love that. How do you screen for that when you're hiring people?
Stories.
Yeah.
You want to hear stories. You want to get people talking about themselves. A question like you just asked me is a great one. You want to get them to reveal stories about who they are and how they see the world and how their childhood was and how their upbringing was. And it's not easy. It really is like something you might get right about one out of 10 times, really. And what we try to do is we try to date before we get married. What I mean by that is when we bring somebody into the team, we want to work with them for a while on a project basis before we bring them on as a full-time person. Because I've learned the hard way that you have to fire quicker than you think. And you have to really prune out people who aren't good cultural fits. And I want to keep this company small. My first company was 150 employees at the time I sold it. Wow. I want to keep this one around 50 people, more like a lean Navy SEALs type of team rather than a really big company again.
Yeah. How would you describe the culture that you've built?
It's people who are ambitious, candid. Candor is a big part of our culture. It's a meritocracy. It's not one where it's like this. I read in a book somewhere where this guy went from college football to the NFL, and one of the first thing he noticed was when you get to the NFL, when you're running suicide sprints back and forth, the first thing he noticed was there was nobody there watching to see if you touched the line. That was the big thing that he took away, is like, wow, nobody's checking to see if you touch the line on your suicide. And so that's what I really try to characterize our culture as. Nobody's going to check to see if you touch the line. If you don't touch the line, you're not going to make it. Because we're going to keep this team small and lean and tight, especially now with things like AI. We don't have to build a big team. We can build a smaller team of the best. And now with AI, they can do the work of 5 or 10 people. Is how we look at it.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, it's the protecting the team but while scaling is something that's top of mind for me right now. Like it's
so hard.
Being very thoughtful about who you invite into this sacred circle of people who are working so hard and really looking out for each other. And every once in a while we get a turn in the punch bowl and it's like, oh no. It's very traumatizing. So hard.
And there's a book called Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. And that's a really good book about necessary endings. When you realize somebody is not a good fit for the culture, who's maybe good at what they do, but they're not a good fit for this team. How do you approach that? And how do you make the right decision? Because it's actually a weaker decision for them, for you, for the team, if you let that carry on without you doing something about it. So that book has helped me a lot to think about this.
And I will put all the links to these nuggets in the show notes. Okay, so as we get close to the end here, what's something that our listeners can do today to make their lives better or stronger, their businesses or their lives?
For me, one of the best things I ever did was start my first business. So the first thing is, I think, get into business for yourself. Get into something that you can throw all of your heart and soul into. And I don't mean follow your passion. I think follow your passion is bad advice because I've never been passionate about the lawn mowing business. I hate mowing yards. I hated it when I was running a lawn mowing business. I hate it now. I don't like mowing yards. I love running a marketplace that connects homeowners and and consumers. That's a lot of fun. I love building something that touches the mass market. So I think if you can find a project that you can really just throw everything you got into, and then you can see that thing grow, and you can see people use it, and you can see people get value from it. Like once you see that, you'll never see the world different. You'll never see the world any different any other way. Like you'll see like, okay, I can build things and people can use them and get value from them. And to me, that's brought me a lot of happiness. So I think if you can look at how you spend your few good decades on this earth, like we get maybe 40 or 50 good years.
Yeah.
What are you going to spend it doing? Spend it building something that people will get value from, that people will enjoy using. Because that's brought me a lot of happiness.
Yeah, I think particularly as people age and are no longer quote unquote useful, it's like that's when decline really sets in, at least emotionally or mentally. It's like I don't feel useful. I don't feel like I can contribute anymore, and just that loss of purpose is really powerful.
It's so true, and that's what happened to me when I sold my first business. I thought I was only 33 at the time, and I thought, okay, well now I'm just going to live this life of like a capitalist and make investments, and it got existential real quick. So you have to have that project. You have to have that goal. And I think Elon Musk said that success is expectations minus results. So what did you expect to happen? What happened? And then that's success or happiness. And so it's a very simple way of looking at it. So if you can manage your expectations, have some goals, build a project, knock those goals down, that always feels good. So that's, without GreenPal, I would be really, really, really lost and unhappy. It's my baby. It is my thing that gives me purpose in life.
Well, as a parent of young children, things like grocery delivery or being able to take care of my home with the touch of a button or something like that really kind of democratizes so many services, that used to be like, oh, who do I call? I don't know. And I think, you are doing something really, really great and purposeful and meaningful. And so I congratulate you and your founders, and it's very exciting, and I'll be downloading it later.
Thank you so much. Let me know how it works out.
I will. Okay, so wrapping up, where can people find you?
Yeah, anybody who wants to hit me up, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram. I hang out there a lot, Bryan M. Clayton. And then, or just go to greenpal.com, sign up for free lawn mowing quotes. Or if you're in the business, you can apply as a vendor there.
Cool. We'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks, Lauren. I had fun.
Thanks for listening to The Impatient Entrepreneur. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague, or give us a 5-star review on Apple. You can also chat with us on Instagram or Facebook at The Impatient Entrepreneur Pod. Want to star on a future episode? Head over to theimpatientrepreneur.com to inquire. Thank you to the team at Quidar & Co. for believing in me and bringing this podcast to life. And thank you to Carson Childers for mixing and editing this episode. Can't wait to see you next time.